Accountability is almost like a four-letter word in our industry, just like the word fuck. But accountability shouldn't be a four-letter word. And really, where I get most of my productivity is from self-accountability and keeping myself on track. What I'm going to share with you today is a form that I use called a theme day accountability tracker. I'm going to walk you through how I theme each day to make sure I accomplish all the things I need to within a week to keep my efficiency and momentum moving forward. So we all have things that we need to do on a daily basis. We all have things that pop up, but there should be some non-negotiables that we do on a weekly basis to make sure that our business is always growing. So day one theme, which is Mondays for me, I call 40 realtors. So it's a realtor theme day. And what I'm doing within that time frame on Mondays is making sure that I reach out to at least 40 real estate agents, whether they be on my A list, my B list, or my C list, which I'll dive into a little bit further later. The second theme day to keep me on track is Tuesday update calls. So every Tuesday, we're calling the buying agent, realtor, the selling agent, listing agent, realtor, as well as the borrower, consumer, to give them an update as to where we're at in the process so that there's not any questions. I'm going to go through exactly the script that we use there and how we use it to our benefit to generate more loans and answer more questions. The third day are pre-approval calls. So on Wednesdays, we're calling all of our pre-approvals for the last 60 days that haven't gone into contract yet to see if they have any questions and stay in touch. The fourth theme day on Thursdays is past clients. Okay, we're calling our top 50 favorite past clients or doing at least 10 outreaches for people for annual reviews. That way we're staying in front of our database and having great conversations. And then the fifth and final day, which is my favorite, is VIP calls. Okay, calling 10 people on Fridays that are super important to you and that are VIPs in your life. So let's break this down a little bit from a science standpoint so you can understand tactically how you can execute this and hold yourself accountable as well. So first theme day, Mondays, realtor calls. I mentioned that I have lists, A, B, and C. It's really important that we know how to communicate to lists because you communicate to people differently that are on different lists. So what are my definitions for my A list, for example? So an A list real estate agent to me is someone who I've closed 4 or more transactions with in the last 12 months. It's really simple and it's metric based. So if I've closed 4 or more transactions with someone in the previous 12 months, they would be an A realtor. A realtors get a call every single Monday. So it's an outreach every single Monday no matter what. That's the easiest call that you're going to make to a real estate agent because you're already in a relationship with them. Okay, it should be a very simple call to make and an easy connection because you're connected already. Now, my B list, okay, are agents that I've closed 1 to 3 transactions with over the previous 12-month time frame. So that's why they're B. Metric based, of course, okay, 1 to 3 closings in the last 12 months. Now, realtors that are on the B list category get a call every other week. So we take the first 50% of the B list and we'll call them one week, and then we'll take the second 50% and alternate and call them the following week. That way they're getting 2 outreaches, okay, at least per month. And then the C list is really the prospecting list. So these are people that I haven't closed a transaction with. What we do with the C list is that might be someone who I want to work with that I haven't connected with yet. That might be someone who I did connect with and they agreed to work with me, but we haven't received any referrals yet. Or that might be someone that we did connect with and they have referred us someone yet, but we just haven't closed a transaction. Okay, this is your prospecting list. We follow the C, the way that we call the C's is the same way as the B's. 50% one week, alternate it to 50% the next week. What I think you'll find is that when you make your list, is that you won't have very many A category realtors, and that's okay. That list is always going to be smaller than your B and C list. The goal of this game is to move people from C to B and then B to A. And over time, you will see that by systematically following up with these people in this manner, that you will get more referrals and you'll have more better interactions with your real estate agents as well. Now, here's something that's really important for you to know, is that when you're making these lists, which you all have to do, If you come across a name and you literally go, oh, I just don't want to call that person today, they shouldn't be on your list. Just take them off. It's literally the most ridiculous thing that I see in our industry. And by the way, I've been super guilty of it in the past, which is why it's so ridiculous, is that you shouldn't be afraid to call this person or actually not want them to pick up the phone when you call, right? Take anyone off your list that when you look at the name, you cringe, right? There is plenty of people out there to work with that you can work with. And when you're using this list, we want to work with more people we like. Okay, it's critical. But this gives you a really easy way of following up on Mondays and making those 40 realtor calls if you have 3 separate lists and you communicate them to them differently depending on where they're at in your list, okay? A great example of that is I wouldn't call up a C realtor and say, hey Lewis, it's Jeremy Forcier, CrossCountry Mortgage. How the hell was your weekend, man? Did you drink a bunch of beers? Did you have a good time? I wouldn't do that because it's inappropriate. This guy doesn't even know me yet. We haven't even got the appointment. So a C-list call sounds more like this. Hey Luis, it's Jeremy Forcier with CrossCountry Mortgage. The purpose of my call is that I'm looking to work with more great people, just like you. I've heard great things and I'd love 15 minutes of your time. Just keep it simple. Remember the relationship context when you're calling people. Your C is going to be different than your B is going to be different than your A. Don't call people with the same message all the time because you have different levels of connection and relationship with those people. So that's Mondays, okay? So you're going to make an A, B, and C list on your realtors and you're going to call them alternating just as I said, except you call your A's every single time, no matter what. Second theme day, okay, Tuesdays, status update calls. Our biggest complaint in the industry is that there's bad communication in the mortgage industry. And from a service standpoint, that's usually the number one complaint in all industries is poor communication throughout the sales process. So Tuesday updates are very simple. We let everyone know up front that every single Tuesday, you're going to get a call and an email summary with exactly where you are at in the process, anything that is outstanding, and what the next step and timeline is. We do this with the listing agent, the buying agent, as well as the borrower to make sure we're all 100% on the same page. This does a few different things. Number one, it eliminates surprises. Okay, how many of you have had a loan, I know I have in the past, where something pops up, okay, maybe a tax lien or something like that, and you wait a whole week to tell someone that this popped up and you're supposed to close escrow that week and then you have to tell them that you're trying to figure out how to deal with this tax lien. Tuesday updates eliminate that surprise. Okay, it takes all of the anxiety out of the equation because you have to give an update to exactly where you're at and set correct expectations for everyone. It's a lot easier to get an extension on a close of escrow if they know 7 days prior rather than a fire drill, cross your fingers and hope it's going to work out in the next 10 days. So it creates unbelievably honest communication with everyone and it actually holds transactions together better rather than worse by giving information in real time. Now, the second thing that it does is that it creates prospecting opportunities for you. When you are calling a customer and giving them an update and they say something like, oh, this is great, so far, the process is going awesome, that is an opportunity to ask for a referral. Okay, whenever we're getting praise from anyone on our Tuesday updates, we are asking for either an appointment if it's one of the agents, or we're asking for a referral if it's the customer. Sounds something like this. Luis, I'm so excited that you're having a great experience with my team. That means the world to me personally. Hey, I was wondering if you could help me with something. I'm looking to work with more people I like this year, people just like you. Who are 2 people that you know that could use my services in the future that you think I should be introduced to? Just ask. It creates asking opportunities for referrals and appointments. Now, the third thing that it can do is that it can also bring to the surface frustrations or unspoken misunderstandings, okay? If you're reaching out proactively and connecting with a realtor or a consumer, when they ask you questions, don't be irritated by it. It's a request for information because they're unclear on something. So when someone might seem irritated, off, or aloof, I will ask them, hey, is everything okay right now? How do you feel about the transaction? And when they bring questions, don't be irritated by it. Like if they want to know if the fees should be lower or if they should be shopping still, that's just a request for information. And if they do have a valid irritation point, it gives you an opportunity to go fix it. People don't really want to hear "I'm sorry" all the time. They just want to be heard and they want you to fix whatever the problem is. So make sure you're practicing undivided listening skills, that you're taking in what they're saying, and if they're requesting information or they give you some type of real frustration that's going on, dedicate yourself to fixing it right then and there, rather than asking for a referral from someone who is irritated. That is never a good thing to do. Okay, so this is going to force you to stay on top of your pipeline, to be engaged, to know where your loans are on every single Tuesday, because you're mandatory giving these updates, and it's going to create better, once again, communication, connection, and more referral opportunities for you. Now, the third theme that we do is on Wednesdays, we call all of our pre-approved clients who are not in contract yet. Now, I go back 60 days just because the list gets too big to call all of them on Wednesdays, but we go back 60 days. Whoever we've pre-approved the previous 60 days that's not in contract yet on Wednesday gets a phone call. And it's super, super simple. It's, "Hey Luis, it's Jeremy Forcier, CrossCountry Mortgage. I'm calling to check in on your pre-approval. Have you checked out any homes that were interesting? Do you need any updated numbers, or do you have any questions, or is there anything I can do for you today?" It's not complicated, but it creates better interaction. Once again, I'm going to raise my hand. I don't know about you guys, but have you ever gone months and months and months without calling someone who's been pre-approved, who raised their hand and said, "Hey, I want to work with you," and then you randomly contact them 6 months later and they've already bought a house? That's because we're not staying in touch with them. We're not continuing to stoke that fire in that relationship once we already have them pre-approved. It takes time for people to buy a house, right? And they are going to have questions. You'll also get great information on doing these calls. Here's some common questions that come up sometimes when I'm doing these calls. Number one is that, "Hey, can we get approved higher?" Right? Can we get approved for higher? We're looking at different houses, and it seems that the pricing is actually $50,000 higher than we thought where we were going to be. If you're not making those calls, sometimes they don't ask you that question, right? And then they could just get referred to someone else. Number two is that, "Hey, we went to an open house this last weekend, and we were wondering if you could run numbers on X," right? That's a huge opportunity for you to add more value, create a total cost analysis, give them more information rather than hoping that they're going to call you and that they maybe start working with a loan officer who was at that open house, who can give them numbers on that. So being available to your client systematically and seeing where they are and staying in touch with them is extremely important. Now, this is a theme I don't know if you've caught so far, but you also can ask for referrals. Okay, so when you're talking to your past clients, even though you haven't closed them yet necessarily, it's still a great opportunity to ask if they have any friends, family, coworkers, etc., that are looking to purchase as well or looking to refinance, that you would love to talk to them today. Okay, so that's why we call all of the pre-approvals, so we convert more. Okay, we have less loss, less slippage, just due to no communication over time. Now, on Thursdays, the theme is past clients. So there's something called an orphan loan. Okay, it's something that I learned from Kai McBride years and years ago. He talked about how he loved orphan loans. And orphan loans were loans that he would get from other people, like loan officers, that were their clients, and the loan officers just never called them. So he called them orphan loans. They were just left in the dust. And I'll never forget him saying that, because I was like, I don't ever want to have an orphan loan. Like, I don't want my clients, for me to tell my clients that, "Hey, you're going to be a client for life. We have a client for life program, and I'm always going to stay in touch and I'll be here for you," and then never call them or stay in touch with them in the future. So on Thursdays, we're proactively reaching out to our database. Okay, so the list for me is very simple. What I do is I use an annual review. Okay, I use an annual review to do all of my past client calls, and it's just really, really simple. 7 questions. Has anything changed in your monthly income and or job? Have you acquired any debt since the previous transaction? Have you made any improvements to your property since the last transaction? Are you looking to take any cash out for any projects? Are you interested in saving money on a no-cost refinance, if you could refinance with no fees? And do you have any other questions about real estate or mortgages that I could help you with today? You'd be shocked as to what great information you get from doing those calls and reaching out and seeing where people's life events are, and that you can then make suggestions and opportunities that maybe they should look at some different numbers. Whether that's a cash out refinance because they're carrying $50,000 of consumer debt. Okay, whether that might be going to a 15-year fixed rate mortgage from a 30 because they're planning, oh, by the way, the seventh one, which is actually the third one, is how long do you plan on staying in your home? I'll make sure that you guys get a copy of this review. But seeing that someone got a big job promotion in the annual review question, and then realizing that, hey, have you thought about paying your mortgage off faster? Maybe looking at a 15-year instead of a 30. So that's how we're reaching out to our past clients and doing annual reviews. The function of that is simple. Loan closes, you set a recurring task for 5 years in the future to happen every single time, 1 year from the anniversary date essentially. And then that will pop up in your task list, and all it is a simple phone call and an email. We have over 39% of people filling out our annual reviews or at least answering our questions on them. It generated 88 closed transactions in 2020 for me, so it's really worth doing. Now, if you don't have a big database and you're like, I'm not going to be able to call too many past clients if I follow that, it's really simple. Make a list of your top 50 favorite past clients and just call 10 every single week. Then you'll call, literally, if you call 10 a week and there's 4 weeks, you'll call everyone about every month and a half, right? If you follow it that way. And then you have an opportunity to build a better relationship and staying in touch with your past customers. So that's what we do on Thursdays. Now, Fridays is my favorite theme day of them all, and it's a VIP calls. Okay, so VIP calls are just people that are very important to you. And these are the filters I use to create my VIP list. Number one, do I like them? It's very important. Do I like them? Number two, do I want to be around them? Like, do I personally want to be around them? And then number three, do I want to help them in their life, or have they significantly helped me in some way, shape, or form in my life? So where I got the VIP list wrong when I first started doing this and I created it is really I was just like, who can refer me more loans? Like when I looked at my VIP list, there was like 119 people on it, right? And then I had to take my own advice and look at the list and go, I don't really want to call that. Like a VIP list is like calling your best friend. You're like, yo, what up, Jason? How are you doing today, man? Dude, you're a VIP. You're super important to me. One thing I appreciate about you is that you are always so empathetic to other people. And one thing I really love about you is how you lead your family. You are a great inspiration to me. That's an example of like a voicemail for a VIP. So you use these filters when you're creating your VIP list. Okay, the reason why I like doing it on Fridays is because no matter how hard my week was, these calls always leave me feeling like high. It leaves me on a high note because it's just talking to some of your best friends, some of your best mentors, people that have made a really big impact on your life. And you get to let them know how much you appreciate them. Now, of course, you will end up working with most of these people, but that's not the point. The point is to show gratitude and make sure they know how special and important they are. And then reciprocation is always going to come back, of course. So those are the real basic 5 theme days that I follow. It keeps me on track. It's self-accountability. There's a form that I fill out every single week. I turn it into my assistant. If I don't have one of the days checked off, it's $250 cash to her. So don't be afraid of creating a little self-accountability, of creating a game out of this and knowing what you're going to do on what days. And also know that no week is perfect. Things are going to come up, but don't abandon the process and the system just because one week you called 11 realtors instead of 40. Okay? Process and progress work hand in hand. So I hope you found this valuable. Use your theme day accountability trackers and make sure that you don't associate the word accountability with the word fuck.